My name's Ash, and I want to run through my experiences so far in having bariatric surgery in Queensland, Australia, under the diabetes scheme. So if that's something of interest to you, please feel free to continue watching, and I'll give you all the information that I can, and I'm sure I'm going to miss stuff, so feel free to leave a question in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it either directly or in an upcoming video. So this all started for me about 18 months ago when my endocrinologist advised me that there was a scheme available for diabetics, which I am, to be able to have bariatric surgery paid for by the government to help combat having diabetes. And that was something of interest to me, so we discussed it off and on for about 6 months and finally decided to go on the waiting list for it. So at that point, and prior to surgery, I was hovering in the mid 150 kilo range, so quite big, quite heavy. I am 6'2", so I carried it okay, but I was still well in that morbidly obese range. So the process from there was to then, once we applied for it, was to then be accepted for it. So that involved a number of interviews, so with the medical staff, and a pre-admission or a pre-interview questionnaire that had to be completed, as well as watching videos to understand what went on, how it moves forward, so on and so forth. And that whole process took about another 12 months. And as I'm recording this, I'm currently 4 days post-surgery and 2 days post-hospital. So I went in for surgery on Monday, the 2nd of September, and today is Friday the 6th of September. And I left hospital on Wednesday. So I was in there for 2 nights, 3 days. So that was my whole time in hospital. So in preparation for the surgery, now I had a bypass. There was also the option of a sleeve. I suffer from reflux a little bit already, so my surgeon advised that the bypass was the best option for me and would also give me the best outcomes long term. So that was the option I went forward with. Now, to get ready for this surgery, I was on essentially a liquid only diet for 4 weeks, which involved OptiFast, 3 meals a day, and for the first 3 weeks I was allowed certain vegetables, and for the last week it was purely just the OptiFast, and I had to cut out all dairy and all other food. So when I started this on the OptiFast, on that day I was 156.1 kilos in the morning. Within 2 days I'd lost 6 kilos just by cutting out dairy completely. So I would normally go through 2 to 3 litres of dairy a day, between coffees and wheat bix and just drinking milk. That's always been my biggest issue, is dairy. I'm not actually a big eater. I don't often eat what's right for me, but I'm not a big eater. I could always quite happily go through with 1 or 2 meals a day. My big issue was dairy. So that was quite the revelation to me in of itself, was the fact that I lost 6 kilos in 2 days purely by cutting out dairy. So as we sit today, we're almost 5 weeks from when I first started the OptiFast, and like I said, 5 days post surgery. I'm down to 138.1 one. So 18 kilos I've lost in just under 5 weeks. Now, with the surgery itself, that Optifast was the hardest part of it. I'm not going to lie, there were times I was craving food, I'd liken it to a pregnant woman in terms of, like, I'd have cravings for lamb cutlets or pizza or that sort of thing. But when you're going to have major surgery, and it is major surgery, you need to make sure that you do the right thing and follow it. Now, I'm not going to lie, I did fall off the wagon a couple of times, but for the most part, I stuck pretty strictly to it. Now, I was pretty nervous coming into the operation. I'm 50 years old, and prior to this I'd never spent a night in hospital, so I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I was lucky that my partner is a theatre nurse by training and an anaesthetic nurse by training, so she was able to help me along the way, answer questions I had and just alleviate fears. But right up until they put me under, I was still contemplating pulling out. So just because the nerves had got so far into my brain, and thinking, well, this is not something that can be undone once it's done, and do I really want to go through with it? Things like knowing that I'll have to be on vitamins for the rest of my life, knowing that I can't take NSAIDs like ibuprofen ever again. That sort of thing really weighed on my mind. It wasn't so much the operation itself, it was the lifestyle changes that would have to happen afterwards. So that's where my head was at, but I plucked up the courage and went through with it. Now, the operation itself pretty much was a doddle as far as I was concerned. I was done under a general anaesthetic. They've done it via keyhole surgery. I have 5 small incision marks in my stomach. Apart from that, everything went well. I went in pre-admission at 6 a.m. I was on the operating table by 8. And I was out of recovery by 2. And I was up and walking around by 3:30. So I actually felt well enough that first day to go home, but they wouldn't let me do that. So, but in terms of complications, I really had none as far as the actual surgery was concerned. Now, in terms of the days post-surgery, I didn't really have a lot of pain. That first night was a little bit sore just from the gas build-up from the general anaesthetic, working its way through, and I'm sure that's what it was, because it would move. Like, at first I thought I was having some sort of chest pain, but if I rolled on one side it would move to the high side. If I rolled on the other side it would move to the other side, and that's perfectly normal, is my understanding, when it comes to a general anaesthetic, that it takes a while for that to get out of your chest cavity and back to feeling good again. And by the second day I was fine. Now, one thing I will caution is be very careful with how much you intake in terms of liquid post the surgery. So I thought I was doing everything right. I was taking very little sips. I was taking my time. I was taking half an hour to go through about 125 ml of water or liquid. And then I had a coffee and it felt great on the way down. Once again, it took me about an hour and a half to drink a piccolo size coffee. But I realised that in total, I drank way too much liquid, and it came back up. And while it wasn't the worst feeling I've ever had, no one likes bringing up anything. So yeah, it's just be careful on your liquid intake and try and stick to it and space it out. And when you're having something a bit thicker, like you're on clear liquids for the first day and then bariatric liquids for the next 2 weeks, which is essentially runny liquids, not anything too thick. So custard's probably too thick, but anything less than that, so soups and coffee and that sort of thing are all fine. The other thing I'll mention is that the Opti-Fast and Opti-Slim diets really do play havoc on your bowels. They can go one of two ways. Mine was that I regularly had diarrhea, so I had to manage that with anti-diarrhea tablets that I'd take 2 of every morning, just to make sure that there were no accidents through the day, because it does come on fast and it hits you fast. So yeah, be careful of that. Now, so far post-surgery, I haven't really had any other complications. I took my bandages off today and everything seems to be fine. I've got no bleeding, no leakage, no anything like that. Now, in terms of the way Queensland Health handled everything, I can't say enough about them. They've been excellent all the way through. The communication from the bariatric team has been fabulous, and the fact that it's all free of charge just blows my mind. That the fact that something so normally costing $20,000 to $30,000 is just done as a preventative health outcome, I think is fantastic. I'm not sure if the other states in Australia do it or anywhere else around the world does it, but the fact that the Queensland government does it, I'm eternally grateful for. So if you do have any questions about what's gone on, I will try and make some regular uploads just to give you an idea of my journey. I will probably start an Instagram page or something along those lines as well, just to show you my results in photo form. So I've been taking photos from the start right up until this morning to give you an idea of my progress. I'm not the sexiest guy in the world, so they're not going to be fantastic quality or fantastic to look at, but it'll give you an idea of the progress. And I've been recording the weights with them as I go, so I know exactly where I stand. But any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I will attempt to either answer the comment directly or put it in the next video. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and if this has been of interest, please like the video, and if you know of anyone else that may be of interest, that may find this content interesting, feel free to let them know about it, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.